As spring arrived, we could start looking after outside jobs. Completing the outside of the north wall was our main task, but first we needed to take care of some drainage issues. Water running off the concrete was not running off the dirt quickly enough, so I wanted to add a French drain up here. We just wrapped some corrugated tube with landscaper's fabric and then buried it in gravel along the edge of the roof. Better to do this now before things got growing up here in spring. We used the tractor to get things most of the way up the wall, but it can't quite reach all the way. I also took this opportunity to put in some cement to ensure that the runoff went away from the wood sections of the roof. Then I covered that with some rocks to improve the look of it. And then we placed these stones all the way up the edge. A little decorative and a little functional. Shifting down to the north wall, the subject of this video. Everything gets layers, so we had to start at the bottom, which meant some digging for David. He's a good digger, so he dug right in, and we cleared down to the footings where we already had a well-established French drain system. We also needed to dig a trench along the north wall. You can see there was insulation against this wall already. My goal was to excavate down to the top of the basement wall insulation so that the new insulation and waterproofing could overlap that basement insulation. Sherri applied the Blue Max waterproofing over the lower part of the wall, while I got going on the safety fence. The fence had to be strong enough for someone to lean on and not die. To match the fence on the garage, I used the same treated 4x4 fence posts and then just notched them so the lower part could be attached to the wall with 1/4-inch Tapcon screws drilled several inches into the concrete. I'm pretty sure the wood would snap before you could apply enough load on the fence to lever out those screws. Insulation will cover these, so the final effect would be that the fence posts were in the middle of the wall. Back to the basement egress section, and you can see the Blue Max waterproofing is already down to the footings and cured. I can't attach insulation and lath directly to the concrete, so I started with treated furring strips attached with Tapcons into the concrete. The main structural concern is simply having enough attachment points to hold the lath securely, which is why I put in some horizontal ones. Other concerns include that these need to resist rot and rust, etc., so everything had to be rated for burial. Of course, everything lasts longer if I could just make sure that they would not be wet at all. So here I'm adding the first layer of vinyl and some pea stone to help with drainage. The sand in here already drains pretty well, but I want it to be extra safe and help the water down to that basement French drain system. Then another layer that would go up to the bottom of those windows. Note I didn't seal the bottom edge of any of these layers because if any water did get in, I don't want to trap it. This cracked a little when it was curved, but it's fine. Then we added some lath and a bunch of screws to hold it all in place. So now the wall is insulated and waterproofed several times down to the footing. And then I brought in even more gravel, protected by landscaper's fabric, etc. Then we eventually start to stucco over the lath. While that scratch coat cures, we jump over to the main wall. With a lot more clear space on this wall, we were able to use 14.5-inch strips of insulation to space out the wood furring strips. Doing it this way instead of measuring with a tape makes everything perfectly spaced in parallel, so it's easy to fit the insulation pieces later. This wall was very lumpy shotcrete, so we used treated wood spacers to hold the furring strips plumb. We used EPS instead of XPS for two reasons. First, the EPS is softer, so it could better absorb the lumps and bumps of the wall and give us a decently tight fit. Secondly, EPS may not be as waterproof as XPS, but when it does absorb water, it doesn't hold that water like XPS does. So, because it's a back layer, it can just drain out any water that does get through the layers rather than trapping it. Another detail to point out is that the white EPS is lined up with that first layer of basement insulation. When we add the next layer, we'll use XPS and it will overlap that joint. Here's a good shot of a couple of those furring strip spacers. That wall is between 6 and 8 inches thick and very strong, but not very uniform or flat. If you want to see the shotcrete videos, I'll link them here. In the meantime, these furring strips are giving me an easy way to get the exterior walls properly flat and plumb. The blue PEX tubes are part of an internal emergency drain. Water should never get to that because the top end will be under the rubber, etc. But if any water did get in there, I'd want it to drain out. Next, we add another 17mm billboard vinyl. The vinyl is over that first layer of wall insulation, but the bottom edge comes out over the second layer of basement insulation. And we didn't seal the bottom edge, again to help shed anything that might get into that layer. Then the second layer of wall insulation sits directly above that basement insulation to help form the continuous layer. The basement insulation wasn't quite level, so you get that puzzling as I make that fit as tight as possible. That troublesome pipe sticking out is a potential bathroom exhaust fan. I have a basement bathroom roughed out, but no immediate plans. Those vertical black lines just make it much easier to find the furring strips with the lath screws later. The lath I place here actually goes down below the insulation joint. A bit more gravel to help with drainage. And then we start the scratch coat stucco, at least for this below ground segment. Why did I only use 4 inches of insulation below the stucco? Because it gets prohibitively expensive to get longer screws to attach the lath. If I went a couple more inches, it would insulate better, but the incremental cost would be much higher per R value. Then the question would simply become, why only 6 inches, or only 8, or only 10? Eventually you need to do a trade-off analysis, and 4 is the economic sweet spot for this sort of exterior insulation. You just can't get the longer screws for cheap. This is just a scratch coat. We'll need more than one coat before we can bury this. Also, I guess we never finished the scratch coat for the bottom of the basement egress wall. I'll do that now. This doesn't need to be pretty, just mostly plumb and flat. A few days later, and I am back with some brown coat stucco to cover the scratch coat. The video makes it look like a continuous process, but I actually have a full-time job, and I'm just coming out several evenings and a Saturday each week to get in some work. In real time, this north wall took us a month. After that cured a bit, Sherri put in a nice layer of Blue Max waterproofing and then another layer that same evening. For the basement egress, I decided to add a few more inches of scrap insulation before burial. Adding another French drain along the north wall. Again with a bit of low incremental cost insulation where we can. Once this trench is filled in, I can proceed up the wall without concern about falling in the ditch or causing it to cave in or something. Here we're jumping to a bit of a side task. The temporary plastic over the gazebo frame skylight had been shredded by the winter weather, and it was time for a refresh. This sheet of new plastic should last a few months, or at least until we can get started on the permanent solution. Back down to the north patio, and we need to raise this ground level a bit. We had a big pile of masonry sand left over from the gunite crew. Level ground at this stage just makes all the next steps easier. Moving ladders or even just walking is easier if you're not dealing with a trench along this wall. So now I can get back to finishing the furring strips that go above the windows. David enjoyed this tractor digging at the start, but eventually even moving dirt with a tractor feels like work. I did appreciate that he freed me up to start prepping the window bucks for the windows, along with trimming in the fancy shapes for the insulation around the windows. Then while Sherri was waterproofing around the top edge of the tower, she got a bit of a surprise. So we all went to investigate.
Found a nice little hiding spot.
Oh, he's mad.
Simon, you need. Wait. Let me give you gloves because bats do bite.
I'm gonna use a stick, Sherri.
No, they carry rabies.
I'm not gonna let him bite me. I'm gonna use him with a stick. And
Honey, they bite. Let me give you gloves.
All right, give me gloves.
Can I see?
Yes, bats bite, but I had no plans to touch this bat. I just wanted to flick him out with a stick and send him on his way.
That is one angry little bat.
Let me see him.
Let's see if there's any others.
Huh. That would be a problem. Well, I did just shove his head right, so
Can you see him?
he has reason to be mad.
Oh, he's got blue on it.
Oh yeah, it's a bat.
Oh.
Once I realized he had blue marks on him, I couldn't just flick him away. I'd have to clean him first.
Poor
I think I'm
guy.
gonna wash him.
That is a bat.
You're gonna take him
I
out
just
and
said,
wash
that's
him?
dumb.
Oh
dear.
You got a picture of that?
Take a picture.
Here's the picture we took. Poor little guy.
Okay, so
Sheesh.
you filming or what?
Yeah, I'm filming it.
Okay, I'm going to dunk him again, try to get the rest of the blue off, and then you don't want him flying
Yeah.
blue on me.
What do you think it is? Like a little brown bat? I guess a little brown bat.
Okay.
Sheesh.
Unfortunately, I can't get all the blue, but I think I've got most of it off.
Yeah, what are we gonna do with him?
I'm gonna
He
let
looks
him go, and
vicious.
he's gonna.
Right now.
Well, maybe just go down to the ground.
That's what I'm thinking.
I've got a better grip on him now. Huh? Yep. I recommend getting a stick. I'll send David get a stick after we're done, and you check that whole way around the edge, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, come on down.
I can't believe you thought this was a good idea.
What was a good idea?
That he should roost like where we're painting or whatever.
On this board here.
Alright.
Yeah, come look.
Yeah.
I think you'll be
Can I
like
take a picture before he flies
a
away?
drowned rat
Dad,
scenario.
wait.
Yeah.
Put something down.
Can I take?
He'll just want to get out of here.
I think so, but let
Can I
me.
take a picture before he flies away?
Yeah.
I think he's gonna have to shake himself off first. Okay. You okay, buddy? You okay?
Yep, he looks like a drowned rat.
Drowned rat.
Drowned bat.
Very angry little bat.
I'm just gonna stand on the other side.
Whoa, he's got teeth.
He's cold.
Oh yeah.
Poor guy. Cold.
I wonder if he could actually hurt you. Like if he was just
Oh yeah, he has sharp little teeth.
just. Oh dear.
Just want to make sure he's all good.
Yeah, it's him.
Him going. He's echolocating you, Dad.
Yep. Let me spread you out.
Oh dear. Sheesh.
Yeah, I just wanted to be good.
He'll be fine.
Okay, he'll be fine.
We want to see him fly away.
He's gonna have to dry off first, I think.
He didn't quite fly away before I changed my mind, and I decided to work on his blue max a bit more. Here are some pics after we cleaned him up and dried him better. It did not improve his attitude at all, but he did appear much more flight ready.
Ready? Go.
He says go farther.
Ready?
Ready?
And go.
Where'd he go?
Unfortunately, his flight path put him right behind me, so you don't get to see him fly away, but he did. Then we got back to work on adding vinyls for the next layer of the wall. But I think I'm going to call an intermission here, and we'll do the remaining 11 minutes or so with a second video. I'll just promise to release that fairly soon.